Hey everybody, welcome to Tanchaz Talk, the world's only English language program focusing primarily on Hungarian folk music. I'm Kalman Magyar Öcsi. Episodes of Tanchaz Talk, which combine a mix of music and stories delivered by yours truly, are available as always on tanchaz.com, that's tanchaz.com, or on YouTube, and just search Tanchaz Talk and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Now today we have an episode of Tanchaz Talk Interviews. This is where I usually delve into long form interviews with a wide array of guests. Episodes of Tanchaz Talk Interviews are available on all popular podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, and other stores, and it's free, so make sure you subscribe and leave a nice review if you like what you hear. Now, today I'm excited to be speaking to you from the Windy City. That's right, that's Chicago. You hear that wind? It's actually not that windy, not that, not that bad. It's the second weekend of December 2023, and we've just wrapped up the second annual Hungarian Open University. What? What is that? So I'm glad you asked. So there's this concept in around the world. It really doesn't exist. I can't really see anything like this existing. This concept in Hungarian, it's the Szabadegyetem, which is kind of an open forum. Anyone can go. There's like maybe it's a conference or a special seminar or even just a class, kind of like a TED Talk, where you can go and delve in and participate and learn about a particular subject, and you don't need any prerequisites. It's not really, you don't get a formal diploma or anything like that, but you kind of do continuing development for yourself. And we've been playing with a translation because independent university doesn't really translate it that well, and free university doesn't quite either, although this year we called it free university. And open university might actually be the best translation. So I guess for now we'll trying to see what sticks, but let's start with open, I think, for today, because by the end of this morning we decided I think that's probably the best way to go with open university. But anyway, last year it was the first incarnation of this here in Chicago, and it was organized by and sponsored by the Borozda dance ensemble, a great dance ensemble in Chicago, led by Janos and his wife Noemi Toka. And it was a 2-day conference with speakers and also Tanchaz's each night, so a nice party performance as well on Saturday night, a gala show. And what's kind of happening here? There's a conference for organization and individuals that are engaged in folk life activities. So they want to do continuing education or share resources, share information, and get together and maybe plan things on an annual basis. And the people that are coming are dance teachers and music teachers and choreographers and music arrangers and dancers and musicians of all levels. So people who are leading groups, but also just in groups as well. Cultural organizational leaders, Hungarian houses, etc., from all over North America. And in the course of last year's incarnation of this Szabadegyetem, the Open University, it became clear that there was a need to create some kind of network to connect organizations and individuals involved in these folk life activities on a daily basis. It will need some kind of central source and central organization to kind of connect everybody around the continent. Now I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a little while today. But also at last year's Open University, the participants were resoundingly in agreement that this type of annual conference or an event is really needed. This is something that has never really existed before in North America. And with respect to folk life activities, really not much in Hungary either, as far as I can tell. This is not a festival, not a camp, it's not a workshop, it's not about partying or performing or getting drunk like silly, you know, till 4 a.m. No, this is different. This is kind of a very scholastic, academic, but also a very important connectivity experience. So we decided, let's do it again. So we did a second annual Szabadegyetem, Hungarian Open University, which was organized again in Chicago. And this year I brought my recording devices so I could record some of the moments of the conference so I can share them with you. And that's what today's podcast is all about. It's not your traditional Tanchaz Talk interview, but it's some clips and thoughts and reflections on this past weekend. So you'll hear various voices, you'll hear from various people, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, spearheading the organization for this year's conference remained the Borozda Dance Ensemble, led by Janos and Noémi. Janos Szűcs, of course, is örökös arany sarkantyús, so he's won various golden spur. They call arany sarkantyú. At least 3, you become a permanent, forever arany sarkantyús, golden spur award recipient, and he's a longtime leader of the Bocskai Dance Ensemble in northeastern Hungary. And in 2018, he came to Chicago and as a part of the Körösi Csoma program, and as a dance teacher. And he never left. He met and subsequently married the beautiful Noémi Tóka, who's a professional folk dancer from Hungary, and who's been living in the U.S. for many years, and she works as a registered nurse in Chicago. And of course, they now have a daughter, Emma, as well, who's a very important part of the conference, with her lovely, beautiful presence and positivity. I was very pleased to help join the organizational team as well this year. And joining the organization was a fourth key member, Anna DeCheke Qualls, or Panni as we call her, who sits on the board of the TISA Ensemble in Washington, D.C., and she's also in Washington. She's also the Senior Director of Communications and Strategic Initiatives for Howard University. So she knows what she's doing when it comes to communications and strategic initiatives and marketing in general. And at this year's conference, she gave a presentation on marketing and fundraising initiatives, particularly for Hungarian cultural groups, obviously. And here's a clip of Panni from one of yesterday's sessions, talking about the key selling point when looking for grant money and the crucialness of gathering data, and how important that is. Now here's Panni.
So really, when it's been my experience in the last 2 years since I've been writing grants and applying for funding and other things, that I guess a selling point for why does Hungarian folk life matter here, especially in North America and Canada and the US, is because it can be a portal into the greater folk life traditions of, you know, indigenous peoples or other cultures within North America. So the way that these organizations really appreciate what we're doing is that this is one aspect to getting involved in greater folk life. If they're going through the Hungarian door, great. If they're going through Native American door, great. If they're going through Polish or African, great. As long as they're part of the greater folk life tradition. So I think that's a very important preface. The importance of data. Every foundation, every organization now, including the Maryland State Arts Council, wants to know that you have broad impact. Who is clicking on your stuff? How many people have your attention? This is all important data that you need to collect and you need to quantify, not because that matters, but it informs the way you do business, and it informs them that you have broad impact. So that's critically important.
Panni also spoke about the importance of frequently posting on social media and having a very clear communication plan.
So what I would suggest is, like, you can't, you know, in terms of communications, it's really impossible. Like, I'm like insane about it. I'm constantly on it for work and also for TISA. but not everyone can do that, and you know, everybody here is a volunteer. So really what I would suggest is, like, whatever you do, it just needs to be regular, so that people begin to have an expectation that you're going to do it and you're going to commit to it. If you can only post something on Instagram once every 2 or 3 weeks, then do that. If you can only post once a month, do that, but do it. Like, because if you do it like as a helter-skelter and you stop doing it, people really stop paying attention. And it's good to have, like, if you really want to do it right, it's good to always have a communication plan. Like, what is it that you're posting, how often, and who's doing it, etc. And you can put archival photos, current events, dancer profiles. Like, I do study what other people do in Hungary. I like some of it. I don't like some of it. I watch and see what's going on in the world of social media. Tisa is also on TikTok. So I just do what it takes to, like, get people to pay attention and maybe join us in what we're trying to do. The other thing I use, which is a CRM, a customer relationship manager, basically it's a system that, for lack of a better word, it's like Amazon. The emails you get from Amazon about the latest sales, that's really what a CRM does. You create emails and it sends them out, schedules them, automatic responses and things like that. So and also the really nice component about it is that it tracks who opens your emails, who is clicking on your emails. So, like, you can really, like, I hope you're getting a sense here that you're going to be able to glean data from this. And data is really, that's something we're going to talk about in a second, but data is critically important when you're applying for funding. You need to be armed with data. So the CRM is like a really nice back-end thing. Again, there are some free versions. Zoho is a free version. Bravo is a free version. Even MailChimp has a free version. Those are all, like, pretty free email delivery systems. And if you upgrade to a little bit more money, you get a little bit more.
A few minutes ago, I mentioned that at last year's free university or open university, it became clear that there really was a need to create some kind of network to connect organizations and individuals involved in sharing and preserving Hungarian folk dance and music, and some central internet source or resource that would provide information to the public about Hungarian folk life in Canada and in the US. And of course, I'm pleased to report that over the last year, a working group of the four of us, Panni, Noemi, Tóka, Janos, Szűcs, and myself, we began a journey together to bring such a network to reality. Since last year, since December 2022, the four of us, presented at a variety of venues to lay out the framework for the potential organization and to seek community input, including on Zoom and Pontozo and DeCheke camp and Titi Tabor camp and the like. And we also met on a monthly basis to brainstorm and begin building the foundational blocks for this kind of organization. And we started to already establish the communication tools to the public, or for the public, and to build this network. And we looked at various governance structures, and we did some legal research into what this kind of organization would look like. And we really wanted to make sure we took a look at how we might connect these to existing frameworks, such as the American Hungarian Folklore Centrum, which was established by my parents actually back in the 1970s, which is still kicking around but not that active. And also we looked at Hungarian-based organizations such as the Heritage House, the Hagyományok Háza, and we looked at how we could also connect to the larger diaspora, so including the diaspora organizations, the Hungarian government and the consulate and the like. So, drum roll, the entity was established a few months ago formally. It's called the Hungarian Folklife Association, Hungarian Folklife Association, or the HFA, which is a non-profit corporation and will eventually be a 501c3, so have some tax charitable status, and it was established under Maryland law. In Hungarian, you know, it could be roughly called a Magyar or Észak-amerikai Magyar Néptánc és Népzene Szövetség. It doesn't really kind of translate so well, but the governance that we decided on based on a lot of feedback from the community, and also to make it as streamlined and easy to run and helpful as possible, was to have a 3-person formal board of directors drawn from the leadership team already operating. So that'll be myself and Panni and Janos, and an informal advisory board, which for now will be headed by Noémi Tóka, meaning she's the only advisor right now to the board. But you know, in terms of how the board would be structured and the roles and membership and the meeting cadence and the like, those things we'll be looking to establish in 2024. Candidly, the reason I've been so remiss in making new Tanchaz Talk episodes was that I was really focusing on bringing this organization to life. And the mission for it is to create an alliance for Hungarian folk dance and music organizations and individuals. And the primary focus is on the U.S. and Canada. Eventually, we want to work more toward global connectivity, so groups outside of the Carpathian Basin, and those groups, of course, are already very well taken care of inside the Carpathian Basin, but we want to make sure we connect to Hungarians around the world, Hungarian folk life organizations around the world. So the initial activities, just to kind of highlight this, and this came up in the at the Open University as well. You know, we created an online database, HungarianFolklife.org, so online website, I should say, which strives to connect the organizations and individuals for now, again, within the U.S. and Canada. So there's a website, and we're working on a database and a shared calendar, and just the communication facilitation within the community, and also looking to social media impact. So you can find, if you just go on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or Hungarian Folk Life Association, you'll find everything there. And the HFA, so this new Hungarian Folk Life Association, also helped organize the second Hungarian Open University, and which is the annual meeting, obviously, for organizations and individuals involved in Hungarian folk life in North America now and around the world. Everyone's invited, looking to do continuing education, resource sharing, annual planning, and the like. And future activities we're looking at already would be facilitating grants. As you heard Panni talk some about that already in the prior excerpt, and giving resource and financial support, and expanding, as I mentioned, to other countries and continents. Now, speaking of other countries, going back to one of the speakers at the conference and playing something from his presentation, Tomohiko Yamaguchi, or Tomi as we call him. Tomohiko is from Japan, works at Kyodo Yushi, a grease manufacturing company. He's an engineer and he works in quality assurance. And a few years ago, he was assigned to work at the company's manufacturing plant in Wichita, Kansas. And from there, he commutes up to Chicago to dance with Borozda, with his wife Rie. He also plays the contra. They're very talented dancers, a very, very lovely couple. And he gave a fascinating presentation on the history of Hungarian folk dance and music and the current state of it as well in Japan. I found it very, very interesting to listen and watch this presentation, and here's a clip from that talk.
How can I say? After the World War II, American General Headquarters, who reigned at Japan at the time, they introduced the folk dance, or American folk dance, as a kind of a recreation or something like that. And then this is the mainstream of the international folk dance in Japan right now. So in this situation, Hungarian folk dance first was introduced as a choreographed international folk dance. So there's almost no Sabbath dance at the time, but the step 2. So in the 1970s, Sabatanz, or the Hungarian folk dance for the Tanchaz, started to be introduced in Japan. So that is part of the huge impact to promote our situation on the Hungarian folk dance in Japan. So, and then, how can I say, by Japanese fans of the Hungarian folk dance, the Hungarian folk dance activities in Japan has been promoted more and more, including the, how can I say, this is one of the biggest event that is called Tanchaz Talk Japan. So, yeah, that is, so, yeah, so this is kind of the history of, summary of the history of Hungarian folk dancing in Japan. So I'll not state in detail, but this is the history of, as I mentioned, this is the summary of the history of the choreographed Hungarian folk dances as the international folk dance. So until the 1970s, this tendency was, how can I say, this is kind of was the tendency. So, and the so these are yeah, I'm now showing you that these are the one of the teachers on the regular basis in Japan from the 1970s. So first, the one of the biggest impact is the dance introduced by Elde Thibault. But he, due to the, how can I say, coordinators, organizers, how can I say, point of view, they have been introduced a choreographed Hungarian folk dance first. But for example, Timar Shando, and now the Fazakas Janos, maybe Tisa Ansa will very know about him. So we have been inviting on a regular basis from these teachers, or the as for the Timar Shando, their sons, their families has been keeping teaching us, but to mainly focus on the Tanchaz dance with the understanding of the traditional Hungarian folk dances, like video archives or something like that. And also, let me introduce how Hungarian folk dances activities promoted by Japanese fans of the folk dances. So the point of the activities is very, very different from the situation in the, even in the folk dance club in the States. So for first, the practice started to understand that Tanchaz, no, Sabatanz in the club. So, and these clubs are founded by Japanese fans of the Tanchaz, who is attracted to the how can I say, good Tanchaz dancers in Budapest in, for example, 1980s or 1990s at the time. And the priority is, of course, to understand the Tanchaz, or how to learn, how to understand more the Hungarian folk dance based on their based on the workshop or with very limited experiences. So, but now we have been performing, but at that time, the starting point is to understand how understand the Hungarian dance itself, to dance in the Tanchaz. And practice, it is a very less chance to practice even right now. So once or twice a month, to arrange by arranging the participant schedules and events. So This is kind of a similar situation right now in the States, but 1980s or 1990s, the Tanchaz was held by each clubs. It is kind of locally, but to consolidate these kind of activities, or to activate the Hungarian folk dance activities in Japan, in the millennium, Tanchaz Kozo Japan was launched, and it is also the existing the event. Yeah. So, and also I need to introduce how these activities are supported by. So mainly in Tokyo, it is a kind of a geopolitically kind of have an advantage, like in the DC or the Chicago. So we also in Tokyo there's a Hungarian embassy in Japan, and they sometimes supported the event like Tanchaz Kozo Japan. Also the Liszt Institute in Tokyo also launched the Hungarian the event called Hungarian Festival. That is, it is kind of a similar to the event held by Tisa and Szabo in November to openly introduce the Hungarian culture in front of the general people in Japan. And these are the one of the example of the existing Hungarian folk dance club in Japan. So in Tokyo, there's a four or more, and this is one of the my how can I say base club in the Kyoto University, and we also have the existing band called Chikosh. So there's a Primash, Brachash, Burgush, yeah, or the clarinetist. So yeah, so that is very kind of small population of the international of the folk dancing population in Japan, but it is we try to promote the Hungarian folk dancing activities in Japan.
Looks like there's a lot of interesting things going on in Japan. Worth a visit probably in the next little while. We'll see. So last year our band Gyonta was at the conference, and this year we were back again, and we were joined by another music group to help share the musical burden and to share the joy in making Hungarian folk music. And those were none other than the group called Drusza, recently named, because they're actually a new formation. These are the four young folks from music students from Hungary, and as a part of their education, they've had the opportunity to spend a scholastic or an academic year at Moorhead University in Kentucky, and they are studying some very interesting things musically there. And I had a chance to sit down with them in the back kitchen to talk to them about what they're learning, and kind of the idea behind this program. This is the third iteration now. So the third group of young students who are coming from Hungary to spend the year in the Appalachians, and they'll talk about that in the next clip. The four of them, Piroska Hopál, who plays violin, and Barni Turi, bass player, Marci Pakert, who is the contra player, and Csenge Ladányi, the singer. So we spent a couple minutes together, and here's a clip where I asked them about the idea behind this very interesting educational program they're part of.
Yeah, well, it was the idea of Ferenc Gyuri and Pintér Zsolt. They are not folk musicians. They play blues, folk music, Hungarian folk music, and bluegrass stuff
Mixed together.
mixed
yeah.
together. Yeah, they have really good style. And
With their band.
with their band,
Ratska Jam.
That's for Jam.
Radka Jam.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was their idea. I think it started when they came here, like 10 or so years ago, and they met Raymond McLean, who is a bluegrass, banjo, and a lot of instrument everything player here, and he's a he founded the bluegrass
The folk music center at the East Tennessee State University.
yeah, they founded it, and so they met with Yuri and Jyoti, and they played music together, they talked, and they were talking about sending Hungarian folk musicians to these universities to learn bluegrass music and the way how the bluegrass musicians bring their music into the stage.
Yeah.
So on the stage, and that's the main idea, because I think Hungarian folk music it's about the dancing, and like we have to learn how to
Performing.
perform
stage.
Hungarian folk music on stage. So that's the basic idea, I think.
So maybe how to involve folk music into like commercial or
In a good way.
area.
So
yeah, in a good way.
Right.
So how to like promote Hungarian folk music or something like that. So how to bring it on a stage where people can see it actually.
So far, based on these few months you've been there at in this program, what kind of things have you picked up, or what observations do you have? How are they doing this? How are the Americans doing this with their bluegrass music, and how we can maybe utilize that in Hungarian folk?
I think they can do it because their music is totally different than Hungarian folk music. I mean, there are some similarities, but their music is invented to be on stage.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not really about dancing.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, at
And these
least
are
not
songs,
anymore.
actually.
Yeah, there are
songs.
Yes.
songs. So
not-
there's
it's
this
not-
song,
Written music,
there's this
right.
song, there's this song.
Yes. So they play it two
Like-
times bridge, 2 times chorus,
Yeah.
and finish, then clap.
Yeah, kind
So
of.
it's
yeah.
not like a 12-minute kolotosegi.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So
So what if in Hungarian folk music we started thinking in songs?
it
And
would work.
Muzsikás did some of this, right?
Well,
You know,
I think we don't need to do it instead of doing dance houses or something. So it's just another way, and it might not be the best way or anything. We just need to learn about it, just to get to know another culture and how they do it, and maybe show them how we do it. And I think it's the benefit. It's for the good for everyone.
We had a very frank discussion as well with the young musicians from Drusza about. I asked them about their observations and their experiences thus far. They've traveled a little bit in the U.S. You know, they're obviously here in Chicago, and then they had also been to Washington D.C. before. But they basically very honestly asked them what their experiences have been so far, and they had some very, very honest answers, which I think were very enlightening and complimentary, I would say, to our North American community. So here's the band talking about their observations so far about their U.S. experiences, particularly in our Hungarian communities.
People are much more kind here, and everybody is so hard. Like
Warm-hearted.
Warm-hearted.
Warm-hearted?
Yeah. So
Then, are you making a comparison? Are you saying they're warm-hearted in general, or compared to back home?
In general,
In general,
compared
and
to
compared to
back
back
home,
home.
yeah.
yes, both.
Do you feel when you're back home, and I talk a lot about this to people, that there's a level of competitiveness among Hungarian folk musicians, that and dancers, it's even worse. I think that everyone's looking at each other, judging, criticizing.
Yes.
The brow is kind of
Yes, it's all
forced.
about judging each other.
It really is.
Yes.
And there might be exceptions, of course, but you don't sense that here.
No.
I mean, you met some musicians in Washington, and you met us here, and obviously I think we're very different. And I agree, we are warm-hearted and welcome, and that's what all should be about. But that's a very interesting observation. I appreciate the honesty. Marci, what do you so far? Your
I really like the atmosphere here. So it's really interesting for me because I never ever seen like another nation dancing to Hungarian folk music, and it's I was shocked when I saw that. Yeah.
It's something you're talking about. Maybe Tomohiko is Japanese.
Yeah.
And his wife Ria, and of course we have other that were maybe not so visibly non-Hungarian, but
Yeah.
they're non-Hungarian. It's really, it must be an honor and a privilege to see that this is my people's music and dance, and here they are doing it, right?
Yeah.
Loving it. Yeah.
It's good to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. And Chenge?
For me, one interesting thing was the question of the language, because most of the people speak Hungarian, but they also speak English. So sometimes I just cannot decide whether I should speak in English to them or in Hungarian or what. But it's so much fun. I think it's great how people get together and speak whatever language they can, and just Hungarian tradition brings people together. It's so nice. I think it's beautiful.
And Barney, what are your impressions so far of our land of the free here?
Well, it's so good to play for dance again after
yes.
3 months. It's just so good to do it because we miss that, I think. And it's nice how I always, so I think Hungarian folk music is about the dance mostly. You play for the dancer, and I can do it in here even if I'm in America and not in Hungary. So I can have the connection with the dancer. So
Yeah.
Oh, so that was a nice chat I had with Drusza, and hey, I want to play you a little bit of the concert last night where they played some music from Bonsida in a nice arrangement, and here's a little clip from the Frisch, from the music they played at the concert. Nice job by Drusza and that Boncidai. So this year at the Hungarian Open University, free university, Szabadegyetem, need to find a better name. Anyway, there were participants from all over the continent, from all the way from the West Coast, from San Francisco to the very east to Washington D.C. Or Montreal as well, and also from the middle of the continent, we had two folks back again, two of our younger members from the Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, from the Kapistran Dance Ensemble, and these two young ladies do an amazing job teaching the kids group of Kapistran, which is one of North America's most long-lasting, most established Hungarian folk dance groups with multiple levels of groups. And the two of them are Sydney Jozsa, who's a French immersion elementary school teacher, and Trena Hoebee. Trena is a healthcare aide at the Children's Hospital in Winnipeg. And the two of them, I saw their names on the what they were going to present on, which is leveraging technology and teaching Hungarian folk dance to kids. And I was like, this will be very interesting. What the heck can they be talking about? And they did a wonderful job. A very nice demonstrative PowerPoint and discussion about the challenges they face in teaching kids groups. And I think if you're involved in any of this, you will instantly recognize what they were talking about and how they've leveraged technology, in particular Google Classroom, in teaching kids groups. And some great ideas, some great takeaways here. So listen closely, no matter what level you're involved in Hungarian folk life here in North America. I think it's very, very interesting, and I certainly learned a lot. So here's Sydney Jozsa and Trena Hoebee talking about leveraging technology in today's world and teaching Hungarian folk dance.
We were having trouble with was actually something that we talked about for this weekend is time constraints within teaching your dancers. You only have typically 1 day a week. For our intermediates, we only have an hour and a half once a week, which is not a lot of time. So if we want to be using tools like the archives and the village videos, we don't have a lot of time to be setting up technology for that and to sit down and watch it, because we have so much that we would like to do, a lot of goals. Sometimes our attendance can be quite inconsistent. With kids these days, their schedules are so jam-packed. They've got sports and other arts and extracurriculars, and sometimes even jobs now with our older kids, that we do have some inconsistent attendance, which is really hard to keep the flow of teaching for our groups, whereas we have to keep going back and reteaching things, catching kids up, and that can take up a lot of time as well. Even things that we started implementing this year was teaching solos. So we've had a few older kids, because our age group is so broad in our intermediate group from 10 to 17, sometimes there's a really hard, it's hard to balance challenging our older dancers while also making sure that our younger dancers aren't falling behind, so we challenge them with solos. And it can be really hard to take aside 1, 2, 3 people to individually teach them without ignoring half of our group. So that was really hard for us to try and figure out how do we balance that with the 1.5 hours we have. Sometimes even we've been struggling with communicating with our kids, especially now that they're older. They've all got phones, and a lot of the times they're taking more responsibility on their schedule and what's expected for them on their extracurriculars. So sending information through emails through their parents, it can always get lost when it comes to our kids. We'll have kids come to practice and what's going on? What do we need to do? When are we going to be there? And the information's not getting to them through their parents about events, expectations, about supplies they need for certain events, practices, etc. And even resources, sending them the lyrics to some songs or csügötás that we learn, or even videos of recordings that we do to help extend their teaching at home. those are getting lost in emails that aren't being transferred to the children. And then also, we weren't able to use videos in class to broaden their folk knowledge again. So like the archives and or watching professionals or even songs and music that you can find online, these kids sometimes don't know how to find those resources.
So a couple of the possibilities that we found for Google Classroom is we're able to share teaching materials such as videos, music, and other useful links. Pretty much anything that you can find online you can share through Google Classrooms. It's really great for being able to have teaching materials in one location, especially since we were communicating mainly through email. When you're using Google Classroom, everything is in one spot, so we don't have to be like, oh, it's in this email, go look in your emails. It's all there for them, and we'll show you kind of how we organized it in a bit. We can communicate with our dancers through a stream, so it's like a little forum and you can post comments, they can talk to us, we can talk to them, and I think that's really great, especially for our intermediates, because they do have their own phone, so they like having the independence of kind of reaching out to us if they need anything or asking us questions, and they like that we are communicating with them as well. They kind of feel like they have a role in their own learning. And then it also allows our dancers to, like I said, communicate with us directly, like one-on-one through there. And then it's also a resource that's accessible to our dancers at all times. So whenever we just say, whenever you have like 5 minutes in your evening this week, just like take a quick look at this video, and it's really easy to access for all of them as well.
Yeah, so it's really, really helpful that it's available as an app and as a website. The app is super handy. Sometimes we even use it at practice, say for our adult groups, to access lyrics for us to all sit around and practice together. So it's super easy to access for everybody.
Yeah, and it's done through your Google account, and I'm pretty sure everyone has a Google account, so you just log in through Google, and yeah, it's pretty easy for everyone to access.
So a lot of ways, like we mentioned, that we implemented it for our youth. So we created material relating to regions and organize all of their resources there. So you're able to actually create material as a category, and you can categorize all this information. We have some slides to actually show as an example for you. So we're able to say, we just taught them this year, Székelyföldi. We had Janos and Amy come out and do a workshop for our kids. So we have videos of them dancing it, so they can see themselves, because we don't have the luxury of having mirrors in our dance hall, but we have videos of them dancing so they can watch themselves. We have the music files so they can listen to the music, the choreography music, or other examples of the music of the Székelyföldi region. Right there as well, we have the lyrics, the songs, the csugatás. Everything is so accessible to them right at their fingertips, so that you know, we don't have to hand out slips of paper that get lost and crumpled up in a backpack. It's all in your hands now, and even videos of us breaking down steps. So this is a really huge thing that we wanted to do, was to extend the learning past the 1.5 hours that we have a week, so they can do their own independent learning at home, so that you know, we can progress and we can keep growing through the year and not only practicing the same things over and over. And I know it's important to continue practicing basics, but realistically, with time constraints, that we can only do so much without completely not reaching our goals sometimes. So we'll record videos of us breaking down steps in slow motion, etc. We even included videos of professionals performing and even teaching, so that they can study this at home. Especially coming from my own experience from being in the youth group when I was younger, I had no idea that there were professionals dancing in concerts and competitions in Hungary, and it's all over YouTube from 10 years ago. you know, it would have been super helpful for me to see that, to see professionals as an example, so they can look at the style, because sometimes style isn't always translated in the classroom or at practice. Even looking at the cultural attire that they wear for each region is so different and can really paint a picture for that specific region. Seeing something like Sárközi versus Somogy is so different, and you can sort of see how that style translates with the different attire as well. The singing and trögetás, hearing professionals singing and trögetásing is such a huge example that sometimes we can't provide for them. And also stage presence. So these are all things that we're able to provide for them as perfect examples, because they don't always know where to find those resources. So for us to be able to give that to them, and specifically related to what we're actually teaching them, I think is super important.
So there you go. I mean, there's a lot of interesting things to consider there. This is the type of material, I think, which is very unique. You know, I spent multiple events and parties and festivals and the like with the likes of Sydney and Trena, who just, you know, I just played the clip from their presentation. But this issue, for instance, about Google Classroom never came up. You know, if you don't go to this type of conference, this is the only type of conference, you really don't get this very interesting insight on the granular level. So I think that was a very, very interesting presentation, and the people there took a lot away from it. So I mentioned before that there were people from all over the continent there, but of course we had people from Hungary, not just the Drusza band talked about before, but also some people who are in the KCP, the Körösi Csoma Sándor program this year. Two of the more legendary people who are on scholarship were at the conference. One of them was Janos Szabo. Janos Szabo, who is the longtime leader of the Nógrád dance ensemble, gave a presentation about how to create and how to lead, and then eventually how to give over the reins of a very well-established village, well, outside of the Budapest group, Nógrád, which is one of the most well-known and prominent Hungarian amateur folk dance groups in Hungary, and how to do that over multiple generations with great success. And Janos is now spending a year in the very vibrant city of Cleveland in terms of the Hungarian experience, and he did a great job with a show that we did last month together in Cleveland for the 50th Jubilee anniversary of the Scouts Ensemble, the Regős group, and he's sticking around for several more months there in Cleveland to work as a KCP and bring his wealth of knowledge. So he gave a nice presentation the first day in Hungarian, so I'm not really going to play any excerpts here, but he really gave some very good info, and he really focused on the idea of doing everything with love and with joy, and that's the key, and it's really that simple. And he had some great little quips and poems and the like. And at the gala show last night, he gave we asked him to do a very short Advent greeting, or kind of not a prayer, but a greeting for Advent, just before the Christmas season here. So I recorded a part of that, and well, it's very short. Here it is. It's a Hungarian, but you'll get it. It's beautiful, done in the typical accent or the way of speaking of the northern Hungarians, that which Janos is one of. Szabo János adventi köszöntő.
Az hatalmas Isten mindennek adója, ne legyen élteteknek soha fogyasztója, hanem inkább legyen hű szaporítója, de ellenségnek is megáldója. Nézzétek el az egen a csillagok járását, tengernek partján fényes sokaságát. Küldje Isten hozzátok a szeretet angyala karácsony estéjén, adventben, de inkább egész életetekre. Szívemből kívánom.
So that was Janos Szabo and his greeting for Advent. And another speaker that was there from Hungary was also the MC and make sure everything was running on time. Szilveszter Sikentancz, Sly, as his nickname is in Hungary. He's a very, very well celebrated dancer, former soloist with the Hungarian State Folk Dance Ensemble, multiple winners of various awards, and then since his retirement as a dancer, he became a cultural leader, and he leads the National Heritage Children and Youth Folk Art Association, which is humongous. It ties together all the various youth and children-oriented folk art associations in Hungary, and also beyond that. And he sits on many boards of various organizations, and he's also here for this year as a recipient of the KCP program. He is in Kitchener, working with the Kossuth dancers in Kitchener, Ontario. Fantastic group, and he spoke. He gave a nice presentation, also mostly in Hungarian. It was about how we might benefit from the experiences that he's had leading this association and sitting on the boards of organization, and how we might benefit from those experiences here with our groups, and how we try to tie them together. So this was really relevant for the coming of this new Hungarian Folklife Association organization, and I felt it was a very, 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 very good presentation, and we helped translate as well, obviously. And at the end of the show last night, the gala show that ended the university, we had given out the diploma, so to speak, and at the participant plaques, and for everybody who was there. And then at the end, not to be outdone by his friend Janos Szabo, Sly gave lovely read. He actually knew it by heart, a poem by Endre Ody, a famous Hungarian author, poet, and this one is a poem called Christmas, Karácsony, and it's very interesting for today's world as we kind of reflect on it. And he did say it's kind of depressing poem. And it was a short one, and he apologized ahead of time. A rough translation. Today we should celebrate peace. It's the day of the Messiah. The earth should become heaven. We should embrace our Savior. We should all be hugging each other. But in today's day and age, there's no gratitude. There's no peace. The world is sick, very, very sick. There's man against man. We don't know how to unite. The house of the Messiah has fallen to ruins. We've lost his teachings, his morality. Those who have souls can't simply just become animals. Almighty heaven, send us a new Messiah, because the world is sick, very sick. This is the poem that Sly, rough translation of two of the verses, and I think it's nice to share the actual recording which I made on my iPhone. So here's Sikentancz, Szilveszter, Sly with Ody Endre's Karácsony.
Matán a béke ünnepelne, a messiásnak volna napja. Ma mennyei kéne a földnek válni, hogy megváltóját befogadja. Ma úgy kéne, hogy egymást öleljék szívükre mind az emberek, de nincs itt hála, nincs itt béke. Beteg a világ, nagy beteg. Kihűlt a szív, elszállt a lélek. A vágy, a láng, csupán a testek. Heródes minden földi nagyság, és minden igazság a keresztény. Elvesztette magát az ember, mert lencsén nézi az eget. Megátkozza világra jöttét, beteg a világ, nagy beteg. Ember ellen csatázik, mi egyesítsen nincsen eszme. Rommá dőlt a messiás háza, tanítása, erkölcse veszve. Oda, hogy állattá süllyedjen, kinek lelke van, nem lehet. Hatalmas ég, új messiást küldj, beteg a világ, nagy beteg.
So there you have it, Adi Endres, Christmas, and some somewhat depressing words to reflect on. The world is sick, very sick, and indeed it is, but I think the Magyar Szabadegyetem for this year, the Hungarian Open University, really brought some light to the world. I think it was a successful second offering of this, and if you can't come, or if you haven't been there yet, please come. We'll see where it is next year. Might be in a different location, that might be at a different time, but I think it's important to have an annual event to reflect on where things are, our sense of community, and to get better and to share information and to grow. And it's not about focusing on the party, and it's not about focusing on preparation for a performance or anything like that. I think this is a very different type of cerebral weekend, and I've had a wonderful time. A bit tired and ready to go back now to Toronto. And the show last night actually ended with Borozda. Well, here it is. Yeah, Borozda's Kalota Szegi, and they did a wonderful job dancing the choreography. And the live music was supplied by Gyonta with members of Drusza. And I'm happy to say, after the gala was done, we had a lovely, lovely dinner, an Advent bazaar, like a little shop experience, and live music, lots of dancing. I should say there was also dancing during the conference, some dance teaching, some music teaching opportunities as well. But there was a nice Tanchaz that went into the wee hours, and so here we are. Thanks again for listening to this Tanchaz Talk Interviews episode, and make sure you share it with your friends, and see you back next time. Thank you.